The Golden Nugget Casino, downtown Las Vegas, February 1979. A 26-year-old man in a brown corduroy jacket is standing at a roulette table, watching the croupier spin the wheel. He is not betting yet. He is not drinking. He is not talking. By every measure any security camera in the building can identify, he is just standing there. The croupier releases the ball. For approximately 3 seconds, the man does nothing. Then, he steps forward and places 3 chips on a specific section of the table. The croupier calls no more bets. The ball drops. It lands in the section he bet on. It will land there, on this wheel and on every other wheel he plays on for the next 18 months, at a frequency the laws of probability say should be physically impossible. This is Doyne Farmer, a physics PhD student at the University of California, Santa Cruz. He has never been arrested by any casino in Las Vegas. He has never been caught by any security team. He has never broken a single Nevada state law. Across 3 years of methodical operation across Las Vegas and Reno, he has won tens of thousands of $1979 from casino roulette wheels. All of it is legal, and all of it depends on a piece of technology that, in 1979, nobody on Earth knows is possible to build. So, how does a 26-year-old PhD student build a device that lets him beat casino roulette wheels across Las Vegas without breaking a single American law? And what was inside that device that the Nevada legislature would, 6 years later, be forced to write an entirely new state law to outlaw? To understand what Farmer was about to do at the Golden Nugget, you have to understand what the roulette wheel was supposed to be. The American wheel has 38 numbered pockets. The croupier spins a small white ball against the rotation of the wheel. 15 seconds later, the ball loses momentum and drops into a pocket. A single number bet pays 35 to 1. The actual probability is 1 in 38. The difference is the casino's edge, 5.26%. It is mathematical. It is permanent. It is built into the geometry of the wheel itself. For 300 years, every casino in the world treated this edge as inviolable. You could not count cards. Roulette had none. You could not track patterns. Every spin was statistically independent. You could not mark the ball. It was changed every shift. Bribing the croupier was pointless. The croupier did not know which pocket would catch the ball any more than the player did. The only way to win at roulette was to be lucky. The casinos counted on people not being lucky. What Farmer realized in spring 1977, sitting in a physics seminar at UC Santa Cruz, was that this was not, strictly speaking, true. Roulette is not a random game. Roulette is a Newtonian game. The ball has a measurable initial velocity. The wheel has a measurable initial velocity in the opposite direction. The friction given a particular wheel and ball is a fixed quantity. If you knew the initial conditions, you could, with enough computing power, predict where the ball would land. You did not need the exact pocket. You needed only which eighth of the wheel. Even imperfectly, that would give you a 15% edge over the casino. Doyne Farmer was born in 1952 in Silver City, New Mexico. His stepfather was an astronomer named Tom Ingerson, who ran the local Boy Scout troop and openly dreamed of one day building a colony on Mars. He took Farmer and the other boys camping in the New Mexico desert, taught them celestial navigation under the stars, and told them repeatedly that anything they could imagine, they could build. Farmer believed him. By his late teens, he had been accepted to Stanford. In 1973, he transferred to UC Santa Cruz to pursue a PhD under a small group nobody at any other American physics department was paying attention to. The group was studying what would, 15 years later, become known as chaos theory. In 1973, it had no name. 6 members. The senior researcher was Robert Shaw, a soft-spoken theoretical physicist who had refused several major university appointments to stay at Santa Cruz. The graduate students were Farmer, his lifelong friend Norman Packard, James Crutchfield, and 3 others. They met informally in Shaw's office, in graduate student apartments, in the back of the physics building at hours when it was officially closed. They called themselves the Chaos Cabal. Their proposition? Most systems in nature that appear random, weather, fluid turbulence, pendulums, a small ball on a spinning wheel, are not random. They are deterministic. They look random only because the initial conditions are too complex, and the sensitivity to them too extreme for any human to predict without computational help. In 1973, that meant a university mainframe. By 1977, it meant something else. In June 1975, an engineer at a small semiconductor company called MOS Technology released a microprocessor he had designed in his garage in Pennsylvania, the 6502. It cost $25. It fit in the palm of a hand. By autumn 1977, the same chip sat inside two new consumer products called the Commodore PET and the Apple II. It also sat on the workbench of a 24-year-old physics PhD student in Santa Cruz, who had just realized that predicting where a roulette ball would land was no longer a theoretical problem. It was an engineering problem, and he was an engineer. In April 1977, Farmer walked into the office his friend Norman Packard shared on the third floor of the Santa Cruz Physics Building. He closed the door. He explained what he wanted to do. Packard listened for approximately 15 minutes without interrupting. Then he said one sentence: "Let's build it." By the summer of 1977, 11 people had joined the Chaos Cabal in what would become one of the strangest engineering projects in the history of American physics. They called themselves eudaimons, from Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. Eudaimonia, the flourishing that comes from the exercise of human reason against the indifference of the universe. The first thing the eudaimons needed was a roulette wheel. In autumn 1977, Farmer and Packard drove from Santa Cruz to a casino supply warehouse in Reno. They paid approximately $1,400 in cash, most of two graduate students' stipends, for a regulation American roulette wheel. They drove it back to a rented house at 707 Riverside Street in Santa Cruz, where most of the cabal already lived together, pooling graduate stipends into a common fund, sharing rent and eating dinner around one long wooden table, and installed the wheel in the basement. For the next 18 months, that basement was open 24 hours a day to any cabal member who wanted to spin the wheel and time the ball. The wheel was spun approximately 20,000 times. The device had three components: the input, two micro switches hidden in a shoe. The wearer pressed one with the big toe when the croupier released the ball, the second when the ball passed a fixed reference mark, the third when the wheel completed one rotation. Three button presses, the fundamental physics of the system. The computer, an MOS 6502 microprocessor on a circuit board 5 centimeters square. Two memory chips, a timing crystal, analog circuitry, 4 D-cell batteries. The whole assembly was the size of a packet of cigarettes. It hid in the hollow heel of a custom platform shoe, a fashion item that, in 1978, drew no second glance on a Vegas floor. The output: 8 electromagnetic solenoids wired to a leather harness, worn under the shooter's shirt around the waist. When the computer calculated which eighth of the wheel would catch the ball, it sent a coded vibration to the corresponding solenoid. 3 short pulses on the third solenoid meant bet the third octant. There were 2 roles. The kicker stood at the wheel, timing the ball, not betting, not speaking. The shooter stood at the betting table 3 meters away, receiving the vibration signal, placing the chips. The two did not acknowledge each other inside the casino under any circumstance. If something went wrong, only one of them was supposed to be caught. By spring 1978, the system worked. On a real regulation wheel, the computer predicted the correct octant 44% of the time. The casino edge on a single number was 5.26% against the player. The eudaimon edge on an octant bet was 44% for the player. By any measurement of any casino game ever played, it was the largest mathematical advantage anyone had ever found in a regulated gambling operation. At 10 past midnight on February 24, 1978, Farmer walked onto the casino floor of the Stardust in a brown corduroy jacket, bell-bottom jeans, and custom platform shoes that weighed 3 pounds each. He walked to a roulette table in the center of the floor and stood at the rail in the kicker position. The croupier was a man in his 50s. He did not look up. He spun the wheel counterclockwise. He released the ball clockwise. Farmer pressed the switch in his right shoe at release. The second when the ball passed a metal post. The third when the wheel completed one rotation. 1.5 seconds later, 3 short vibrations triggered against the left side of his abdomen, the third octant. Farmer did not bet. He was there to verify the system worked. The ball dropped. It bounced twice. It came to rest in pocket 23. Pocket 23 was in the third octant. Farmer stood at the rail for 2 hours and recorded 63 additional spins. The computer predicted the correct octant on 38% of them, meaningfully above the statistical baseline of 12.5%. The team had calibrated for 44. In the heat, vibration, and electromagnetic interference of an active casino floor, the device was running at 38. 38 was enough. Farmer flew back to Santa Cruz the next morning, handed the data to Packard, and spent 4 weeks recalibrating. By April 1978, the 11-person team was organized into 4 rotating 2-person crews. Farmer worked the Strip, Caesars, the Sahara, the Stardust, the Marina, the Golden Nugget. Packard worked Reno. The protocol? No crew entered the same casino more than once a week. No member won more than $700 per visit. No crew spoke to any other crew member inside any casino. By autumn 1978, the Eudemons had won approximately $12,000. By spring 1979, 25. By summer 1979, 40. The money paid rent on the Riverside house. It paid for rental vans to drive to Vegas and Reno, for cheap motel rooms 2 blocks off the Strip, for soldering irons and oscilloscopes in the basement, for the long communal dinners, pasta, salad, cheap California wine, where the team debriefed each run at the long wooden table. Nobody bought a car. Nobody bought a house. Nobody quit graduate school. The first problem was sweat. By autumn 1979, every Eudemon who had worn the harness in an active casino reported the same thing. After 90 minutes, under casino lighting, humidity, and the thermal load of nervous adrenaline, the wires from the solenoid harness to the shoe computer began to slip. The insulation chafed. The copper came into intermittent contact with sweat. Sweat conducts electricity. The current was small, 4.5 volts, a fraction of an amp, but applied to bare skin through a 1 millimeter contact point for 90 minutes, it is enough to produce a burn. By December 1979, 3 members of the team had been treated at off-the-record clinics in Northern California for minor electrical burns sustained during casino operations. The 4th incident, in early 1980, was not minor. The team member, whose identity was kept out of every published account, was wearing the harness on a casino floor in Reno when a movement aligned the chafing point with a sweat bead the wearer had not noticed. The current arced. The wearer froze at the betting table. The shooter at the next table noticed, walked calmly to the bar, then to the lobby, then signaled to the kicker by prearranged code. The operation was over. They met outside the casino 7 minutes later. Farmer drove the team member to a small clinic in Reno. The physician was told the burn had been caused by a faulty hairdryer. The team member required approximately 3 weeks to fully heal. Farmer drove through the night back to Santa Cruz. Letty Belen, his girlfriend, an attorney who had joined the project as a shooter, was waiting at the Riverside house when he arrived at 4 in the morning. They sat at the long wooden table in the kitchen, neither of them turning on a light.
It's not worth it anymore.
No, it isn't.
The Eudemons met in the basement on Riverside on February 12, 1980. The conclusion was unanimous. The system worked. The system would continue to work. But the system was putting the lives of the people who operated it at meaningful physical risk. To continue would require substantial redesign. The team members were making real progress on the dissertations that had brought them to Santa Cruz. Robert Shaw's chaos theory work was attracting attention from physics departments across the country. The Eudemons voted. The project was over. The harnesses were destroyed. The 5 versions of the device were boxed and stored. The roulette wheel was sold back to the warehouse in Reno. They had won, by their own final accounting, between $40,000 and $60,000 $1980 across 26 months of casino operations. They had not been caught, identified by any state gaming commission, or even seriously suspected. The casinos would not learn anything had happened until 1985. In spring 1981, a 28-year-old American journalist named Thomas Bass heard a rumor that physics graduate students at UC Santa Cruz had done something unusual with a microprocessor and a pair of platform shoes in a Las Vegas casino. He spent 4 years trying to get the specifics. He found Farmer first. By 1981, Farmer had finished his PhD and accepted a research position at Los Alamos National Laboratory. Farmer agreed to speak for one reason. A 1980 internal report from the Nevada Gaming Control Board, leaked in late 1981, had used the phrase, "the most coordinated assault on roulette in Nevada history." The casinos were starting to suspect. Farmer worried other groups would try to copy what the Eudemons had done. And without the discipline, safety protocols, and voluntary exit ethos of the original team, would get themselves arrested, injured, or killed. He shared 90%. The remaining 10, source code, wire routing, calibration formulas, stayed locked in the boxes with the shoes. The Eudemonic Pie was published by Houghton Mifflin in October 1985. The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and Time reviewed it. It sold 200,000 copies in 8 languages. The casino industry response was immediate. Within 48 hours, the Nevada Resort Association, the trade group of every major Vegas operator, wrote to the Nevada legislature requesting an emergency revision of the state's gambling cheating statutes. The legislature, 11 weeks later, complied. Nevada Senate Bill 467, passed on June 4, 1985, added one paragraph to the Nevada Revised Statutes. Under Title 463, it criminalized the possession or use of any device which assists in projecting the outcome of any game on the premises of any licensed gaming establishment. The penalty, a felony. Maximum sentence, 10 years. The law has, in 2026, never been amended. It has been adopted in similar form by every U.S. state that has since licensed casino gambling, and by Macau, Singapore, every Australian state, the UK, and the European online gambling regulators. By 2026, what the Eudemons did in 1980-78 is illegal in every commercial casino jurisdiction on Earth. It was, in 1980-78, illegal in none of them. By the time the Eudemonic Pie was published, the Eudemons had moved on. At Los Alamos, Farmer had become one of the early researchers in a small interdisciplinary field called complexity science. Packard had returned to academic physics at the University of Illinois. They had no further interest in casinos. They had a very specific interest in one other place, a place that ran on the same mathematics, a place whose participants, by 1985, were beginning to use exactly the kind of computational prediction the Eudemons had pioneered, a place called Wall Street. In March 1991, Farmer and Packard, with a Stanford-trained physicist named James McGill, incorporated a Delaware corporation called Prediction Company, headquarters, an Adobe office at 236 Montezuma Avenue in Santa Fe, 5 blocks from the Santa Fe Institute. 3 founders, no clients, no marketing. What they had was a hypothesis. The same mathematics that had let 2 physics graduate students predict a roulette ball in 1978 would, they believed, predict short-term price movements of liquid financial securities. The standard academic position in 1991 was the efficient market hypothesis. Markets were random, prediction impossible by definition. Farmer had spent 14 years proving that things economists called random were, in fact, deterministic. He had a roulette wheel in a basement to show for it. The first client was a Chicago options firm called O'Connor & Associates. In November 1991, O'Connor agreed to pay a flat fee plus a share of trading profits for exclusive access to Prediction Company's models. By the end of the first year, the models were returning roughly 3 times the average of comparable Chicago options operations. In 1995, O'Connor was acquired by what would, after 2 mergers, become UBSAG. By 2005, Prediction Company was a wholly owned UBS subsidiary. Between 1991 and its quiet dissolution in 2013, the company generated, by Financial Times and Bloomberg estimates, between $100 and $200 million in cumulative profit. Farmer was an early 7-figure equity holder. The proceeds were enough that he never needed to take another paying corporate position for the rest of his career. He did not. He bought no yacht. He bought no private plane. He funded research positions at the Santa Fe Institute. He returned repeatedly across the next 4 decades to the New Mexico desert, where Tom Ingerson had once taught him to navigate by the stars. He married Letty. Farmer left Prediction Company in 1999. He spent 8 years as a professor at the Santa Fe Institute. In 2007, he took a tenured chair at Oxford, where, by 2026, he was director of the Complexity Economics Program and a senior advisor to the Bank of England, the ECB, and the British Treasury. His official Oxford biography does not mention roulette. The shoes remain in a small wooden box on the upper shelf of a closet in his Oxford home. In 2026, there are approximately 3,500 roulette wheels in commercial service on the casino floors of Las Vegas. They are the same wheels, manufactured by the same suppliers, that Doyne Farmer was timing in February 1979. The casino edge is the same. The mathematics is the same. The ball, on every spin, still obeys Newton's laws. What has changed in 2026 is the law. Every casino floor in Las Vegas now displays a small printed notice, required since 1985 by the Nevada Gaming Control Board, informing patrons that possession of any device which assists in projecting the outcome of any game is a felony. That paragraph was written specifically because of what Farmer did in 1978. He did not break Las Vegas. He did not break American gambling law. He did not break a single rule that existed at the time he was playing. He just timed the ball in a specific sequence until Newton's laws paid.